All right, thank you everyone for joining us both here in person and on Zoom today. Just a little bit of an order for our show today. We're going to kick off with our chairwoman of our commission, Angie Box, who will then turn it over to our new executive director, Jason Maxedon. After that, we will open up the floor to questions. Of course, we do have folks both in person and on Zoom. So if you have a question on Zoom, please type that into the chat so that we can see that and we'll be able to ask those questions to the director and to Angie as well. All right, with that, Chairwoman Box.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us today as we welcome our Executive Director, Jason Maxedon, in his new leadership role. The Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission received applications from across the country for this position, and on June 15th, we completed our interview process. At that time, we confirmed Jason Maxedon as the new Executive Director with unanimous vote of 11 Commission members that were in attendance. We selected Director Maxedon for his role for many reasons. He's honest, hardworking, ethical, and brings a lot of experience to his agency. He brings with him 22 years. In fact, he's worked his way through the agency by starting as a wildlife manager and then Region 1 Wildlife Program Manager in West Tennessee, which included directing wildlife management operations in 25 counties and 47 wildlife management areas. Jason backs up his strong resume with a long track record of building personal relationships that allow him to be a successful leader in TWRA staff and the stakeholders we represent. As we move forward in this agency, the Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission is confident that Director Maxedon will be a step in the right direction. His vision for the agency will take us to the next chapter of wildlife and fisheries management in Tennessee to ensure a promising future for all Tennesseans who want to go outdoor to hunt, fish, or enjoy recreational opportunities. I'll turn it over to Jason Maxedon now to share his vision for the agency.
Thank you, Madam Chairman Box. It's no secret that this agency had some challenges over the past few years, but I am committed to moving this agency in a positive direction by doing the work needed to improve our customer service, drive innovative wildlife and conservation research, and to ensure the public has access to high-quality outdoor recreational opportunities. I applied for the job because I care about this agency, and my goal is to lead TWRA in managing and protecting Tennessee's fish and wildlife in an evolving landscape, and I will partner with the Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission to implement the agency's strategic plan to meet the challenges of today and prepare for the future with an eye on the past. Before the interview with the Commission, I took time to speak with some of our industry partners to hear their concerns. Moving forward, we will be prioritizing stakeholder relationships to support a more unified approach. This will include more partnerships with state lawmakers who are passionate about conservation and a whole of government approach with other state agencies. When we talk about improving stakeholder relationships, that also includes being transparent, doing a better job telling our story, and making sure the agency is relevant to communities. We have some great opportunities to provide better education to private landowners and to share our work with folks in supporting industries so they can get involved in conservation. We do want to see more people getting involved in this industry. So we will be focusing on our 3 initiatives. That's recruitment, retention, and reactivation. Part of that will include expanding our reach to a more diverse audience. Right now, the majority of our licensed buyers are Caucasian, so we know that there's a clear need to make this agency and the hunting and fishing industry more welcoming to all types of people. And with all the new people moving to Tennessee from other states, we must make sure that we're educating them and giving them opportunities to participate. We're also going to be focusing on the next generation. Many of the folks that grew up, in my generation, grew up with fathers and grandfathers taking them hunting and fishing. But that's becoming less common as urban areas increase. So we want to bring the outdoors into the classroom to share the biology and the science behind our work. We want to see young people become passionate about conservation, species management, and even law enforcement careers with this agency. We're looking at all of our youth programs to see where we can improve opportunities to work with great partners like the Tennessee Future Farmers of America, the University of Tennessee Extension, and 4-H. And of course, at our core is our mission of wildlife and fisheries management. We want to optimize wildlife connectivity with a strategic ecosystem-based management approach. This will help us ensure outdoor recreation is high quality and accessible for the public. We also need to address the threats facing fisheries, wildlife, and their habitats. That certainly includes our work to support prevention, mitigation, and eradication of invasive species. Finally, our goal has always been and will continue to be building management around science-based practices and values of Tennessee hunters, anglers, outdoorsmen, and women. With that, we'll be glad to take any questions at this time.
Jason Larry Woody, the toughest question, can I ask your age?
Yes, sir. Mr. Larry Woody asked the age. It's 48 years old.
And where do you reside now, Jason?
So I'm in Dickson County, Tennessee right now. My family and I are relocating to the Bonacqua area in Dickson County.
And speaking of family, what family members are there, Jason?
So I have one son. He's 20 years old. His name's Dalton, as he's out in West Tennessee. And then my wife's name is Tiffany.
I'm sorry, what's your wife's name?
It's Tiffany, and it's a little different. It's Teffany.
And you also have your farm, I understand, in West Tennessee where you grew up.
Yes, sir. I grew up out in West Tennessee, and we still have a farm out there, and my son is living in our home out in West Tennessee.
And some personal experiences, Jason, growing up, what were some of your outdoors influences or some of the things you enjoyed doing outdoors growing up that made you decide this is what you wanted to do for a career?
So I'm an avid outdoorsman, a hunter and fisherman. Started hunting, really at a young age with my father. We would go quail hunting really at the age of 6, and as I became older, went on my first deer hunt at the age of 9 in Weakley County out there, and have really continued that throughout the years. I'm an avid waterfowl and turkey hunter now, and I grew up, of course, deer hunting, as I mentioned there. Went on the youth hunt at the age of 9, so have just really continued all of the hunting and fishing activities.
Do you have a particular outdoor activity that's your favorite? What's the favorite thing you like to do?
Yes, sir. Probably waterfowl hunting is by far my favorite. I enjoy training labs, so I really like to be able to do that with my son and my father and share that experience with others.
Where do you waterfowl hunt, Jason?
So we've got a place there in Gibson County on the North Fork of the Forkadere River.
All right, just keep moving here. We've got some questions coming into the chat. Richard Sims asks, he of course is a former TWRA employee. He says he's seen lots of controversies come and go, but in the last 2 years, I don't believe I've seen so many controversies come back to back. What is your specific plan for trying to rebuild or restore the agency's image in the eyes of constituents and legislators going forward?
All right, so thank you, Mr. Sims. It's no doubt that we've had challenges over the past few years. And so really just through communication and relationship building. We've already started this process actively working alongside the Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission with legislators. We're continuing to go down and work with the members. Any projects that come up or challenges or questions they may have, we try to go down and talk through those situations with them and just work in a partnership with them to move forward for our hunters and our fishermen in the state. Also with a lot of our stakeholders, we're trying to be more forward-facing. I think you'll probably see that we're getting a little bit more active with things such as duck blind crops. We're getting questions all the time about what's the status of the crop. So we're trying to get out and be more interactive and just do a better job of communicating with our stakeholders on what's going on, what we can improve on, and whenever we get questions, we try to do our best that we can to answer those.
So another question from the chat says, what is your perspective on the ruling that TWRA cannot go into private property without a warrant? Of course, we cannot comment on active cases, but it also asks, what is the current protocol for TWRA agents going onto private property without a warrant? Perhaps you could just speak a little bit to how our officers do what they do and perhaps how passionate they are about their jobs.
Yep. So our officers are very passionate about what they do. Our agency's only as great as our staff. We have a lot of great officers. They are the front-facing people of our agency. They're the ones that you interact with and see the most. And yes, we have had a new ruling that presents some challenges, but we're continuing to work through those with our stakeholders and with our landowners. And so now we basically need a warrant to get onto private property. And so what people do, if they have a violation that's occurring, they can contact us. We will be able to do some of those that are occurring in the officer's presence. They will continue to be able to go out and act upon those. But if they hear something or they see something, they have to get a little bit of evidence, do a little bit of research on that, and then go and get a warrant to be able to enter that property to be able to act upon that.
Another question question in the chat. Talk about your roots growing up in West Tennessee and how it shaped your career in wildlife.
So grew up, as I mentioned, Mr. Woody, hunting and fishing in the outdoors, and grew up really, I'm gonna say, connected to the land. My family's always been involved in some type of agriculture. My dad started partnering on cattle at a young age whenever I was there, and we've been able to carry that on. I was growing up working on a farm during the summers in West Tennessee. We had cattle later on in life, being able to take care of those cows. And then really a friend introduced me into that deer hunting that I mentioned a minute ago at the age of 9. So we didn't really have a place to deer hunt. And they took me. There was 4 boys that went on this juvenile hunt trip at the age of 9, and all 4 of us got our first deer, that was my first deer to get on that hunting trip. And that's really what got me hooked at that age, to be able to start the big game hunting, and it really just carried on. And then I had some friends that we didn't have a place to waterfowl hunt. We didn't own any waterfowl property, and had some friends that were kind enough to carry me waterfowl hunting, and was hooked from the first time that I was able to go out and shoot a duck, and have been hooked ever since. And then that just really spun over into doing a lot of hunting on the WMAs out in West Tennessee, going out on a lot of the WMAs at a young age and waterfowl hunting and get on the river systems when the water would get out, and just continued that and have now been able to pass that on to my son.
Jason, budgets are a big concern with everybody, and from you to me. What are some of the things that the budget challenges that are facing the agency, and some of the maybe revenue sources that you might be able to tap into that maybe hadn't been tapped into yet?
So that's one of the things that I mentioned in my vision to the commission, is trying to work towards securing more long-term funding opportunities. And right now, the majority of our revenue is generated from the sale of hunting and fishing licenses. Our customers are the ones that support our agency. They're the ones that keep the programs going. And as that declines over time with what we're seeing with a lot of user groups, that's why we want to do this R3 effort that I was talking about. We really want to go in and try and recruit new hunters to be able to help drive the sale of those hunting and fishing licenses. And what that does in turn is helps us be able to put more access, better opportunities out on the ground for our sportsmen and sportswomen of our state.
Also, as everybody knows, the timbering controversy ruffled a lot of feathers. How would the agency, or could the agency done a better job handling it, or do a better job maybe moving forward PR-wise?
Yes, sir. So that's no secret, talking about the Bridgestone Firestone area up on the plateau. And yes, I think there was some misinformation that got out on that project early, and that's one thing that we're going to do. As you all know, we've hired Miss Emily Buck for our communications director, and we're going to do a better job trying to get out front on those and do a better job of educating the public. That particular circumstance, I think if we could have gotten out, a little bit earlier and done a little bit better job of educating folks, I think it really would have shed more positive light on that project. There was some misinformation that came out that it was an old-growth forest, when in turn it really was not. And so I think by just getting out and telling the public more about these opportunities, educating them on what the grasslands would be like after a timber management project went on there and what species would benefit from that, I think it might change the minds of some of the folks that might have been opposed to that early on.
Larry Ray from Memphis asks, talk about your hopes to get more diversity in sales of licenses.
Okay, so I think I mentioned earlier, a lot of our user groups are Caucasian, and so I think just going out, we've got some new initiatives, we've got things in different school programs, the archery in schools programs, and what we're really trying to do is start new users of all different types of backgrounds. And as many of you know, we've got a lot of different people moving to our state. And just really going out and educating these people on what we do as an agency. And we're going to be doing that on all of our media outlets to be able to show what opportunities that the agency offers, what type of outdoor recreational opportunities that our state offers. And then we are working through STEM education. We're working with many partners such as the University of Tennessee, 4-H, FFA, and these are opportunities to engage some of these younger users, and then not only the younger users, but we want to really try to target folks in their 20s and 30s. One of the reasons that we want to target these folks is because they obviously can continue to buy licenses, they obviously can continue to buy hunting and fishing products for their children, which is in turn going to keep them engaged as well.
Any more questions? Last call in the chat. Hearing none, we'll wrap it up.
All right, well, thank you very much. I really look forward to serving the agency, serving our stakeholders, and serving our staff in this role. It's an honor. I am very humbled to be able to be selected by the Tennessee Fish and Wildlife Commission to serve in this role, and look forward to working for our customers, and look forward to working for you and serving you in the future. Thank you very much.